We moved back into my grandmother's house the year my mother lost her voice. I was 15. My father had died the year before. The house was old, 3 rooms, a clay tile roof, and walls the color of ashes. There was one room we didn't use. She said it was never meant to be opened again. That night I went back. I didn't mean to say anything. A voice whispered my name from inside the wall. I didn't scream, and I didn't move. I just stayed there. Every muscle frozen, heart pulsing so loud, I was sure it could hear me too. The voice wasn't loud. It wasn't clear. It said my name the way someone does when they haven't used it in a long, long time. I told myself it was nothing. Lack of sleep, the way old houses groan, maybe rats in the walls. I forced myself to step back, slowly, like the hallway would shatter if I moved too quickly and leave that corridor behind. But the cold didn't leave me. It clung to my spine, even as I climbed into bed. The next morning, I found my mother already in the kitchen. She was humming an old lullaby, stirring a pot of soup like nothing had changed. But I noticed the way she paused, as if listening to something I couldn't hear. She didn't say anything unusual, but I couldn't stop watching her. That evening, as we ate dinner in silence, she finally looked up and asked, "Do you still hear him in your dreams?" I didn't know how to answer. I hadn't dreamed of my father in years, but last night I had. I saw him standing just inside the edge of the bamboo grove, half shadowed, soaked in moonlight, waiting. I said nothing. She nodded as if I'd spoken. "He never liked this season," she said. "Too quiet. The house remembers that." Later that night, I noticed it again. The smallest things. The way her feet would pause mid-step. How her hand hovered near the wall, longer than necessary, fingers twitching like she was reaching for someone she couldn't quite touch. She never said who she was listening for, but I started listening too. The quiet hours, between 2 and 4 a.m., were never truly quiet. The walls shifted, not creaked. Shifted, like breathing beneath the skin. And beneath that, sometimes, the softest tapping. Never rhythmic, never random. Like someone trying to write in Morse code, but forgetting how halfway through. So I placed a recorder on the floor near the sealed wall. I didn't expect anything. I just needed something, some traces, some proof of whatever this was. I hit a record, walked away, locked my door. When I played it back the next morning, the house came alive in my headphones. At first, silence. Then, soft footsteps. Slow, measured, and then breathing. Too deep and too close. Like someone was crouching beside the microphone, exhaling into the darkness. That evening, I found her in the back room, standing on the floor, eyes closed, one hand resting gently on the wooden wall in front of her, like she was feeling for a pulse. I watched from the stairwell, too afraid to interrupt. Her lips were moving, barely, whispering something soft and rhythmic. She noticed me eventually. Her head turned slightly, and she smiled. "You used to talk in your sleep," she said. "Do you remember?" I shook my head. "You called for your father," she continued, "but he never came. He was still learning how to return." That night, I wrapped myself in every blanket I had, but I couldn't get warm. The air in the house had thickened. The walls seemed to press in just slightly, like they were listening to my breathing. I closed my eyes, but I could still hear it. Soft, broken, far away and close all at once. A voice that remembered me. A voice that had traveled a long, long way to find me.